Hello, and welcome to our course on international relations theories. In this course, we are going to study some of the main theoretical approaches used to understand international politics. Our first approach is realism. Realism is one of the oldest and most influential traditions in the academic study of international relations. It has influenced the way scholars, diplomats, political leaders, and analysts understand questions of power, security, conflict, and cooperation between states. In this first lesson, we're going to focus on the basic ideas behind realism. We are not going to study the variations in detail yet. Instead, the objective is to understand the foundations of the theory. By the end, you should be familiar with 6 important concepts: anarchy, sovereignty, survival, security, power, and national interest. These concepts will help us understand the different versions of realism later. Let's begin with a basic question. What is realism? In international relations, realism places states, power, and security at the center of its analysis. Realists are interested in questions such as, how do states protect themselves? Why do states compete? Why do states form alliances? One fundamental assumption is that international politics takes place in a system of anarchy. This is the first concept we need to understand. The word anarchy can be confusing because its everyday meaning is usually associated with chaos, disorder, or the absence of rules. However, in international relations, anarchy means that there is no central authority above sovereign states. Let's compare this with domestic politics. Inside a country, we have a government. It creates laws, courts interpret them, and the police enforce them. This is political hierarchy. The international system is different. There is no equivalent of a world government with unlimited authority over sovereign states. There are international organizations and laws, but states remain sovereign political units. Therefore, realists describe the system as anarchic. This brings us to our second concept: sovereignty. A sovereign state has political authority over its own territory and population. States are formally independent. Brazil is not legally subordinate to Argentina. France is not legally subordinate to Germany. However, sovereignty does not mean states are completely independent in practice. They depend on one another economically and strategically. The next important concept is survival. For realists, the survival of the state is a fundamental objective. Before pursuing goals like education or human rights, the state needs to continue to exist as a political entity. Survival is the basic interest. This leads to security. Security refers to the protection of a state, its territory, and its population from serious threats. Let's understand the security dilemma. Because of anarchy, states cannot be certain about the future intentions of others. One state increases its military to feel safer. Another state interprets this as a threat and responds by increasing its own military. So, one state's attempt to increase its security can unintentionally make another feel less secure. This is the security dilemma. Now we come to power. Power is not simply military force. It includes economic resources, technology, and political influence. Realists are interested in relative power. A country may be powerful, but if another is much stronger, the first is relatively weak. The final concept is national interest. When governments make decisions, they consider what they understand to be their national interest. A realist analysis asks, why would a state cooperate? And what are the consequences for its security and national interest? Let's summarize. Anarchy, uncertainty, security, survival, power, national interest. These concepts are closely connected. However, realism is not a single theory. Different scholars explain state behavior differently. This leads to several variations. Classical realism focuses on human nature and the judgment of leaders. Neo-realism focuses on the structure of the international system. Before we move to neo-realism, we need to understand classical realism. That will be the subject of our next lesson. Before we finish, let's review today's main concepts. Anarchy means no central authority. Sovereignty is political authority over territory. Survival is the fundamental objective. Security involves protection from threats. Power refers to capabilities. National interest guides foreign policy. These provide the foundation. In the next lesson, we will focus on classical realism and Hans Morgenthau. See you then.